I'm Daniel, and welcome to the 6th episode. 6 episodes, wow. Cool. For those of you guys who have been here from the beginning, thanks. It's always good to see you guys and recognize your names in the comments. I feel like I know you. But if this is your first time, don't worry, you're not far behind. You can go back and binge watch the other 5. Then just subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss any new episodes, and then you're right on track. We've used a lot of geometric patterns so far, a lot of straight lines, and really used mostly wood if you think about it. But today it's gonna get a little curvier. It's gonna be a little more organic. And get this, I think I can do the whole thing without using any power tools. So what are we doing, Daniel? Glad you asked. Today, we're doing terracotta. A whole wall of it. So I've always kind of liked the warmth and texture of terracotta pots. This material has been around a long time. A lot of early civilizations were literally built on terracotta, largely because it's just so easy to come by. It's really just clay mixed with water and then thrown in a fire. So caveman and cool, isn't it? So don't worry, I'm not gonna use a furnace or anything, but I do think I can fake my way into that very elemental, handmade look using just a couple of simple steps. Wanna give it a try? Okay, so the first step is picking the right color. I like the traditional clay pot color though, so I just took a pot over to the paint department and found the closest one that I saw, which for me was this Brandywine color from Sherwin-Williams. Yeah, I think that's gonna look about right. So we've got our color, we've got our paint, but I think it's gonna take a little more than paint to really sell this as true terracotta. We need some texture.
The same brand that brought you this spray texture from episode 3 now brings a product so big, it needs a 2-gallon bucket.
So I think this is actually going to be really fun. This is kind of like a plaster type material, but maybe a little easier to work with. It says on the can that you need to mix it to the consistency of about a soft ice cream before you put it on the wall. So just get your drill with a drill mixer attachment and, get your stir stick and start churning the butter. Looks like ice cream to me. I think we're good. All right, so you can spread the texture with either a trowel like this or a textured roller like this. I kind of want to feel a little more artistic though, so I'm actually gonna go with the trowel. So pretty endless design options here. I highly recommend spending some time practicing on a scrap piece of drywall until you really get what you're looking for. I experimented with a few different trowel designs, like this small V-notch, this square notch, which I wasn't really digging at first, but it looked really cool when I did a light knockdown effect on it. And then lastly, this rounded gauging trowel. You can use all sorts of household items to get unique designs here. The great thing about trowels though is that the material you remove collects really nicely on the back of the trowel and keeps your design clean and neat. Man, I really want to try several of these, but I gotta pick just one, so I think I'm gonna go with this rounded trowel. I just really like the subtle wave pattern that it creates, and I think the scale of it's gonna look really good on a full wall. Like I said in the last video though, I'm dying to see you guys try some of these projects. I know there's some seriously talented DIYers and artists out there watching on our channel, and I would just love to see what you guys can come up with, what kind of hacks you would do. So if you do a project, upload some kind of video of it, and then post the link in the comments below. Love to see it, love to feature it here on the channel. All right, time to actually do this thing. There's no turning back once I get started, so I'm all in. This material takes a good 24 hours to fully set, so you don't have to rush, especially if you're applying it pretty thick. But you still want to work in small sections. Don't fret the little mistakes either. Some of them you'll be able to sand out when it's dry, but then others may actually help with the overall handmade look. Well, it's messy work, but it's kind of fun. If you mess up big time though, you can actually use a spray bottle to spray some water on there and give you a little more working time. Whew, okay, so got it all up there. I know it's a little hard to see right now, but once there's paint on this thing, I think it's gonna be a really cool texture. I'm excited about it. Before it dries though, a couple things we need to address. Number one, we need to go back and do any spot repairs now before it sets. Any areas you see where it's just globbed on a little too heavy, or even too light, now is a good time to go ahead and repair those. And then number two, we need to address the edges. So this design's kind of hard to get flush to the wall, so I'm gonna install a frame around the edge using this real subtle 1x2 trim. If you've got existing baseboards or crown molding, I'd recommend removing those before you put the material on the wall, and then you can reinstall them at this step. All right, so if you're installing it new, we're gonna need to cut these to size using a good old-fashioned miter box. So this little miter box is actually a really great alternative if you don't have the money or the space for a powered miter saw. It can make really precise, controlled cuts. It'll take you a little longer because you're doing it by hand, but it's tiny, it's really inexpensive, and super easy to work with. So if you have a larger wall, you need to connect multiple pieces of trim together, but sometimes just butting them end to end doesn't leave for a very good looking joint, and it's hard to hide. A trick you can try is this scarf joint. Basically, you're just cutting both pieces at 45-degree angles and nestling them into each other. It makes for a much smoother, more hidden joint. So I'm a big fan of painting the trim before you install it. It'll give you a perfect edge without having to do any taping, and it's easy to go back and touch up around the nail holes at the end. So you want to try to install the trim while the wall texture is still a little bit soft. That way you can push it flush up to it. Usually you'd install trim using one of these guys, but rules are rules. So we're gonna go old-fashioned with a good old hammer and finishing nails. It's also a good idea to put a little bit of wood glue in your scarf joint just to keep it from separating over time. Then finish up by countersinking the nail holes with this little nail punch. This will allow you to fill those nail holes later and keep them hidden. All right, I'm tired of staring at a white wall. It's time to bring this thing together with some paint. And since I know I won't be using a powered paint sprayer, we will be using this super thick nap roller just to make it really easy to get into all the crevices of the texture. You ready to see the big reveal? I hope it looks cool. What do you think? I have a feeling this one's gonna be a little bit polarizing, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I think this is probably my favorite wall. It's just so human and warm and real. I really like how the light plays off of these ripples. This would be a really good wall to do in a room that had a lot of natural light. So as the sun shifts, you get a lot of these moody shadows. So a couple tips if you try something similar. Number one, mind the depth. You're really not supposed to apply this texture any deeper than about 1/8 of an inch. I kind of pushed the envelope on that and I paid the price. I had a little bit of cracking. Luckily, doing a couple thick coats of paint covers a lot of the minor cracks, but just be mindful of that when you do it. A way that you could bend the rules a little bit is maybe doing multiple layers of texture, so let a thinner layer dry fully and then go back over that with a little additional texture if you wanted more depth. Number two, trowel lightly. I didn't have this problem when I was practicing as much, but when I was actually putting the design on the wall, I noticed a few times the trowel was catching the drywall a little bit and kind of roughing it up. So what I did is I changed my pattern so I was going backwards with the trowel. It was just a softer angle. Just be a little gentle as you're troweling and you should be okay. And number three, press on to the painting. This one's easy to get discouraged on because it just looks like a wall of goop. But I'm telling you, that final coat of paint really brings it all together. That uniform color helps smooth over some of the irregularities and even fills in some of the small cracks that I was telling you about earlier. I want to hear what you guys think. If you liked it, hit that like button, leave me a comment. Well, thanks for spending your time with me. Hope you're inspired to go create something and hope you have a wonderful day. See ya.